The sun was barely creeping over the horizon, painting the sky a soft pink when I tossed feed to my hens. My family's ranch, a stubborn patch of earth we'd held since before folks had color TVs, hummed with the quiet of dawn. Roosters crowed, their calls sharp against the morning air, and I savored the peace of our three-generation legacy. That peace didn't last. The sound of heels clicking on gravel snapped me out of my reverie. I turned to see a woman striding down my dirt path, her crisp white pantsuit and designer stilettos as out of place as a yacht in a cornfield. She was Abigail Harper, 6 months fresh from Los Angeles, radiating the kind of confidence that comes with never being told no. Her purse probably cost more than my monthly feed bill, and her sleek auburn hair screamed money. She clutched a leather portfolio, her steps faltering in the mud from last night's sprinklers. "Are you Jack Sullivan?" she asked, her voice sharp, like she was used to barking orders in boardrooms. I nodded, setting down my feed bucket. "I'm Abigail Harper, president of the Pine Grove Homeowners Association. This is official business." She thrust a document at me, a fancy letterhead declaring my chickens a violation of community aesthetic standards. The words agricultural odors and noise pollution jumped out, signed by Abigail, self-appointed guardian of Pine Grove's pristine image. I had to give it to her. She'd climbed fast in 6 months. "Ms. Harper," I said, keeping my tone steady, "this ranch was here long before your neighborhood. You built around us." Her heel sank into the dirt, and I hit a smirk as she yanked it free, Leah VYing a perfect stiletto divot. "Times change, Mr. Sullivan," she snapped. "We're protecting property values." She handed me a 30-day compliance notice and retreated to her shiny BMW, her steps wobbly on the uneven ground. Holding that paper, I felt a fire I hadn't known since Dad passed. This was our land, our fight. In the barn, I dug out Dad's old files wrapped in oilcloth. The 1962 deeds spread across my workbench made me grin. Abigail had no idea what she'd stirred up. 3 days later, my neighbor Clara Hensley, a 1968 resident and former court clerk, called with a heads up, "Jack, they're holding an emergency HOA meeting tonight about your ranch problem. Be there." That evening, I walked into the Pine Grove Community Center, a building they didn't know my family Sullivan Trust leased to the HOA since 2018. The irony was thick as I faced a room of 20 neighbors, some avoiding my gaze, like Mike Dawson, who'd bought my eggs for years. Abigail, in a Navy power suit, had turned the room into her stage, a projector humming with slides labeled Pine Grove 2025, Luxury Vision. Her husband, Ethan, a slick lawyer with a politician's smile, stood by her side. "We're here to address a threat to our property values," Abigail declared, her laser pointer dancing across charts claiming my ranch slashed home prices by 15 fan tram. Ethan chimed in, "The HOA will pursue legal remedies if necessary." His tone promised a brawl. Clara raised her hand. "Abigail, do you know who owns this land?" The room went quiet. Abigail's pointer faltered, and Ethan's polished grin twitched. Before she could answer, 8-year-old Sophie Chun, who loved feeding my chickens, piped up, "Mr. Jack teaches me about animals." "Why is that bad?" Her small voice cut through the room, exposing the absurdity of Abigail's crusade. I stood, my worn jeans a stark contrast to Abigail's polish. "I value our community and will consider what's best for all," I said, sounding cooperative. But Clara caught the edge of my voice. Abigail formed a compliance committee to monitor my ranch, scheduling a follow-up. As she packed up, I said, "Impressive work." She softened for a split second. "I want what's best," she replied. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. In my truck, I called my trust lawyer, Tom Reed. "Tom, pull every land record since 1960. They want to fight? Let's give him one." The next morning, Abigail returned with Ethan, a photographer, and a land use specialist with a clipboard. "We're conducting a formal inspection," she announced, brandishing a thicker notice. The photographer snapped pictures of my coop, my barn, even my free-range eggs. Ethan grilled me about unauthorized commercial active VY ties. I sipped coffee on my porch, watching their show. Clara strolled up, a plate of muffins in hand. "Morning, Jack. Thought you'd need these." She settled in, eyeing Abigail's crew with a smile that could cut glass. "Mrs. Hensley," Abigail said tightly, "this is official business." Clara's grin widened. "I'll just watch. Reminds me of when Jack's dad bought this land. I was 20, a court clerk. Smart man, old Sullivan." Ethan pounced. "What do you mean, this land?" Clara nibbled her muffin. "Sullivan Trust bought heaps in the 60s. Farmland was cheap then." Abigail's team froze. I jotted every word in my notebook: questions, threats, timestamps. Abigail, regaining her composure, warned, "We'll enforce standards." Clara's smile grew as they left. I called Tom. "They're done. Bring the deeds tomorrow." 2 weeks later, Abigail held a press conference at the community center, inviting a local blogger, Rachel Kim. In a red blazer, Abigail stood at a podium, photos of my ranch displayed as EVY Denke of violations. "One rancher threatens our community's value," she declared. Ethan cited zoning laws, hinting at lawsuits. Rachel's blog post, "Rancher versus Progress," painted me as a stubborn relic. Reading it at my kitchen table, I felt fury boil. I opened Dad's old letter. "If they try to take our land, remember we own more than they think." I called Tom. "Tomorrow, we end this." I requested another meeting, playing defeated. Abigail, smug, expected surrender. Thursday's meeting was packed, the air electric. I wore pressed khakis, looking humble. I reflected. I said, voice low, "Maybe it's time for change." Abigail beamed. Ethan nodded. "I'm considering selling the ranch." Gasps and relieved sighs filled the room. Then Tom walked in, projector in tow. "Before I decide," I said, "let's review what's at stake." Tom's slide read, "Sullivan Trust Holdings." Abigail's smile vanished. Tom's 1962 map showed Pine Grove in Red Sullivan Trust land. "The trust owns 847 acres, including most homes here," he said, flashing notarized deeds. Clara stood. "I clerked when Sullivan bought it. County's biggest deal." Silence choked the room. Tom's next slide showed 23 of 30 homes leased from the trust, including Abigail and Ethan's. Ethan leapt up. "Impossible. Our purchase showed no leases." Tom displayed 99-year lease agreements. "Your tenants," he said. Abigail whimpered, staring at her address on the screen. Mike Dawson laughed. "Jack, I've been buying your eggs while backing Abigail, and you're my landlord?" Clara added, "Let's discuss the center's overdue rent due, law 147,300. Abigail paled. Ethan scribbled frantically. I stepped forward. "I don't want to VYCT anyone. I want respect. The trust has subsidized this community for years." Tom's final slide offered renewed leases, a community fund, and recognition of my ranch's historic use. Abigail whispered, "We're renting from you." Clara sealed it. Sullivan bought this land to protect it. The meeting dissolved into stunned debate. Abigail and Ethan fled, Ethan on his phone. Mike apologized. Others warmed. Rachel sought a follow-up. I declined. Abigail resigned as HOA president. Clara took over, declaring my ranch a heritage preserve. Ethan offered pro bono legal work for the trust, which I accepted. A week later, Abigail, in jeans, showed me a photo album. "My grandma's farm," she said, eyeing my garden. I started one. I forgot what real feels like. We talked, her city edge softening. She apologized not just for the fight, but for trying to erase my legacy. Sophie Chun returned, other kids trailing. My ranch became a community hub, egg sales booming. Clara's HOA balanced progress and tradition. 6 months later, I saw Abigail tending her garden. We waved, a nod to new understanding. The trust thrives, my chickens crow, and Pine Grove learned. Check who owns the ground before you pick a fight. What do you think? Did Abigail deserve a second chance after a power grab? Or should Jack have pushed harder to make her pay? Was the community too quick to side with her at first, or were they just caught up in her charm? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if you're Team Jack, and subscribe for more stories where underdogs turn the tables.